Wow, this is much quieter than normal. This is good. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our special event tonight. Before we get into the introductions and the program itself, a couple of housekeeping things. First off, we are filming this event tonight for the purposes of being able to show and share this with the parents that have not been able to come tonight. So we don't want any outbursts from any Dortmund fans, all right, here tonight. Okay, no outbursts, all right? Secondly, we will be taking some questions at the end of the presentation. All right, so if you could hold your questions until that point in time, that would be great. All right, and let me tell you a little bit about our guest. A little over a year ago, we were very, very fortunate to develop a relationship with the player development program at FC Bayern Munich. One of the leading clubs in the world as it relates to player development. In fact, one of two leading clubs, the other club being that smaller club in Barcelona, Spain, some small club there. And we've been very fortunate. Tonight we have a very special guest that has been the architect of one of the greatest generations of German football players or soccer players in the last 50 years. I have known him for a great deal of time, probably longer than he wishes, but he has played a major role in the development of the game in Germany, and particularly with the Bundesliga and so on and so forth. He was actually the first assistant coach ever hired in the German Bundesliga. Back when he was involved in the game as a coach, they didn't have assistant coaches. All right, so not only was he the first Bundesliga assistant coach, he was the first assistant coach at FC Bayern Munich. He worked under legendary coaches Udo Lattek and Dietmar Kramer, who were one of the the greatest two coaches to coach the game in Germany. All right, after his assistant coaching role, he became a head coach in the Bundesliga and elevated 4 teams, promoted 4 teams into higher divisions, including FC Nuremberg, where he brought them from the 2nd division to the 1st division in the German Bundesliga. He has played, again, a major role in developing some of today's greatest players, including Bastian Schweinsteiger, Philipp Lahm, David Alaba, right, Holger Badstuber, and Thomas Müller. All right, and arguably these are some of the greatest players that are playing the game in Europe and in the world today. Prior, I should say, to his role at Bayern Munich as a director of player development, he worked with Adidas in Germany. He was an international promotions director, and this is where our relationship started. He was a mentor and a teacher to me, and brought me along into the business for a number of years. He was responsible for all soccer promotions, all right, essentially in Europe for Adidas. He worked in several World Cups, kitting the national teams back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. All the teams that were in Adidas for the World Cup, our guest was directly responsible for making that happen. For the past 14 years, he has been the director of player development and women's football at Bayern Munich. And it is my distinct pleasure to introduce my colleague, mentor, friend, Werner Kern, all right, who's come all the way from Munich to be here with us tonight. Werner.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Let me first of all thank Terry Wicks for inviting me. It is wonderful to be here, and you are very lucky to live in such a nice piece of land here at the Bay region. And I think it's wonderful to be here and to enjoy the hospitality here with TVSC. Terry started a very good relationship with Bayern München, And we have already some benefits out of these things, because Lothar, of course, Lothar Osiander and Todd and Keith, they have been in Munich. And we showed them everything, what was important for the player development. They went to the Allianz Arena to see a match. And I think this is a very, very big benefit. The other thing was also that Terry developed a very good friendship with the president of Bayern München, with Uli Hoeneß. And I mean, this is a unique chance for the club to participate from these things. And I must say I'm very happy to be here. And I had already 2 sessions with the coaches of TVSC. So I'm very happy that I can share all my experiences and all my knowledge about 40-year professional football with them. And we had the first session where we were discussing, or where I were presenting about the structure and philosophy of a very good youth development program, like Bayern München. And the second session was about technique, and about training, about technical training and tactical training. And this is so important, that you know what you have to do in the different age groups. This is a very important part, that you know how you have to do these things. And I believe this is a fantastic advantage for TVSC, that they have this relationship for Bayern München. I've heard in 2 weeks' time, 2 boys are going over to Bayern, and they have the chance to train with the relevant age group at Bayern, and they see what level they can reach and for which level they want to go. And I think this is very, very important, that we can work together in a very good thing. I think it's important that the parents know their kids are in a club where they can learn, where they can go forward. And I think you all, the parents, should be happy that your kids have decided to play soccer. Soccer is the #1 sport in the world, and you can reach a high level without being tall, like in basketball or volleyball, and without being big and strong, like in American football or in hockey. In football, everybody can grow to become a top player. And this is a wonderful thing, beside the excitement of soccer, and what is also very important, beside the social behavior they are learning, because football is a team sport. And I mean, this plays a major role. And of course, all the coaches, they are responsible that they take care for the social behavior of each individual player within the roster. But nevertheless, the most important thing is that they get a good education. And for education, you, the parents, are responsible. You can never ask the teachers in school or coaches in a football club, they have to educate your kids. You have to do that. You are in charge for these things, and that's so important. And I tell you one thing. I have experienced during the whole career, top players have top parents. I give you some examples. You all may know Philipp Lahm. Philipp Lahm is the captain of Bayern München and the captain of the German national team. And he grew up in a very small club in München. And his father is a good friend of mine. And he was also a very good, talented football player. And he got a lot of offers from the big clubs like Bayern München or 1860. And he says, no, I stay with my small club, because he was in love with his mother. And his mother is the head of youth development program in the small club. And he loved to play with his friends. And he loved to have his profession as an electrician. So he decided to stay. And the parents are still as solid as they have ever been. And Philip is now a multi-millionaire. And this is important that they deal on a very solid level all the time together, and not to lose all the contact to your former friends. Or if I take Thomas Müller. Thomas Müller played on a normal, he was always one of the best players in each team. He went up, and he joined Bayern München with 11 years. And Thomas was living in a very small village, 40 kilometers away from Munich. And he went always every let's say, 4 days a week for training to München, and he went also on the weekends for the matches. And his parents, they never were criticizing or coming up with some wishes. They took the transport. They cared for their son. And the son went to school, to high school, and he graduated there. So he made everything right. And I met them the first time when we offered him, when he was 16 years, a youth contract. Then I met first time his father. And I talked to him, and he was in a very, very normal condition. So he never lost the contact to his friends and to his village. And this is so important. The most important thing, as I mentioned, is that you should think about kids are growing up in the same way as you have been growing up. By the way, I have asked Terry to talk to the parents, because I think the parents play this major role. And I mean, they grow up not in the same way through the infrastructure. We grew up, we didn't have the new medias, we didn't have all the transportation opportunities. We went to play street soccer every day. We went by bike for the training session. We were climbing up trees. We did all these things. So we learned a lot of movements. Nowadays, it's impossible, because school is challenging a lot. And you don't have the time to do all these things. And for that reason, they have another environment at the moment. But all the kids are going in their development through the same stages. As little kids, they are easy to handle. When they become older, when they are 14, 15, they become slowly adults, they get girlfriends and all these things. So it will become always more and more difficult. And I think this is very important, that you know that difficulties can come up. And many parents, this is what I tell you out of my experience, many parents try to fulfill their dreams through their kids. And this is not happening. It has to happen reverse. You have to support your kids to fulfill their dreams, that they can make it. And it makes no sense to put pressure on. Important is that you help them to do these things.